Did you know almost 6 billion electronic devices have been protected by Corning Gorilla Glass? Not just that, the smartphone, TVs, laptops, smartwatches that you are using is probably being protected by Corning Gorilla Glass. And today, we have made our way roughly around 12,000 kilometers from India to Corning Inc. headquarters in the beautiful New York City, where I have an exclusive access to find out how Corning Gorilla Glass is made. But before we start, let's take a quick look at the Corning's journey.
Corning Inc. was founded in 1851, more than 168 years ago. It is today and has been for its long history a company providing solutions with glass. One of the first companies in the US to institutionalize research and development as a key business strategy, Corning is known for innovations in the development of glass products and glass and ceramics-based applications. The company innovates and manufactures products for the health and environmental industries. Some of Corning's more specialized products have included mirrors for state-of-the-art telescopes and windows used in NASA's space capsules and shuttles, as well as the International Space Station. But that's not all. The company has a pretty rich bouquet of products, be it glass for cars, fiber optic cable to smartphones. In 1879, Corning's long history of innovation started with the development of a bulb-shaped glass encasement for Thomas Edison's new incandescent lamp. At that time, bulbs were made by hand. Around 1915, Corning achieved another landmark by creating a glass stronger and heat-resistant, which resulted in creating a line of highly durable cookware and laboratory glass products that are still available today. And then the whole early 19th century witnessed some amazing innovations from Corning. Corning developed the first low-loss fiber optic wire which used glass instead of wire. Corning even created a ceramic filter that can catch pollutants before they escape a car's exhaust pipe, which is now the standard for automotive catalytic converters worldwide. But the biggest year for Corning was 2007. About 6 months before the iPhone hit store shelves in 2007, Steve Jobs called Corning CEO and asked him if he could create a glass cover for a new Apple product that would resist scratches and breakage. Corning quickly developed Gorilla Glass and it's been used on every iPhone ever since. Not just this, the Gorilla Glass receives so much of praise from the industry that now around 45 original equipment manufacturers are using Gorilla Glass on their smartphones. Today, Corning is no longer described simply as a glass maker, but as a technology company that makes specialty materials for industrial and scientific applications. It manufactures products at 108 plants in 15 countries and employs 51,000 people worldwide. Corning's renewed commitment to quality and the addition of rigor to its hallmark innovation process allows the company to better manage the life cycles of its inventions and improve profitability and sustainability.
So I'm here with Mr. John Bain. He is Senior Vice President and General Manager of Corning Gorilla Glass. Mr. John, welcome to Times Network. I want to start by asking you this thing. It all started back in 1851 and here we are. Walk us through this journey and how do you feel about it?
Well, first of all, great to be here. So Corning's been around for 165 years, and the interesting thing is people think if a company is around that long and that old, they must be slow and slow to react, slow to innovate. It's the exact opposite. You can't stay around that long unless you constantly innovate and reinvent yourself, and that's exactly what we've done here. We're best in class in the world in three things: specialty glass, ceramics, and optics. And we've used those competencies to reinvent ourselves over and over with life-changing products. We started early on with Thomas Edison, needed a specialty glass to envelope his incandescent filament for light. So we made the glass for the first light bulbs. Then we went on to develop Pyrex and glass for cathode ray television, optical fiber, catalytic converters for cars. So it's been an incredible journey, but it all comes down to being best in class in these core material products, which allow us to develop these life-changing innovations.
So what makes Corning Gorilla Glass so special that almost all the OEMs, including Apple, Samsung, and customer want Gorilla Glass on their smartphones?
Well, the benefit of being the industry leader in specialty glass is when new challenges come up, we can go to our scientists and look at products we've had in the past and apply them into new markets. And that's exactly what we did with smartphones. We had a technology called Fusion, which is a precision way of making glass. We also had a technology we used in the past to strengthen glass. And we combine these two core competencies to develop strength and cover glass. We essentially created the category. And what makes Gorilla Glass so much better than the competition is for glass to fail, two things have to happen. One, there needs to be a flaw, and two, that flaw needs to be pulled in tension. So what we did with Gorilla Glass is we put the surface of the glass in high compression. So first, it's hard to introduce a flaw, and you'll see some of this in our labs later today. And second, once a flaw exists on the surface, if it's in compression, you have to overcome that compression to pull that flaw apart for the glass to break. The way we put that stress profile in the glass, that high level of compression and how deep we put it in the glass, is really the proprietary essence of why Gorilla Glass is the industry standard, really the gold standard.
Okay, since India is the second largest smartphone market in the world, how do you see India from Corning's perspective?
Well, India, as you know, is a phenomenal market. Smartphones have really matured. In some regions, they're actually contracting. India is the fastest growing market in the world right now. About 150 million smartphones are sold every year, and it's growing about 10% when other areas are flat to basically contracting. Now, what we've done at Corning is tailored our solutions for the Indian consumer. We have different glasses at different economic value price points. For example, if somebody wanted the best glass there is for the premium segment, we have Gorilla Glass 6. In the intermediate segment, for our more moderately priced phones, we have Gorilla Glass 5, and Xiaomi's done a nice job of putting that glass on both their premium and intermediate models. And even in the economic value segment, people going for their first phone, we have Gorilla Glass 3, which is an outstanding phone at a very economic price point. So we think any device being sold in the Indian market, Gorilla Glass is warranted. And if you want to have a better glass, it's really only 10, 15, 20 rupees to get some of our premium glasses on those products. We're seeing even our best glasses like Gorilla Glass 6 on some value phones, which makes all the sense in the world for the Indian consumer, because the last thing people want to do is buy that first smartphone and have an event where they drop it and damage the device. So why wouldn't you pay a little bit more for Corning Gorilla Glass to have the best glass you can to protect that device for the Indian consumer?
Indian market, let's talk about Indian market again. I think Indian market is perhaps the only market which is actually growing at a very fast pace. How do you see this market? Do you think there's going to be a saturation point very soon, or it's going to go ahead with a faster pace?
Well, markets typically follow the same adoption curves throughout the world. The first thing is people want that first device, and we're seeing this in India now, where for the first time feature phones are actually contracting and smartphones are outpacing the rest of the world in terms of growth rates. So what we're seeing is, number one, people are getting that first device, that first smartphone. The next thing that happens is people want to upgrade. They get the first phone, maybe 7,000 rupees, 8,000 rupees. The next cycle, they want a better phone, bigger screen, better data, better experience, better camera. We're seeing that in India as well. Then the third part of the cycle is now people just start to replace their phones on every 2 to 2.5 to 3 year cycle. And we're seeing that for the early adopters in India. So really, three segments of growth: people buying their first phone, people upgrading that first phone, and people going to intermediate and premium over time. All those require the best cover glass possible, which is why we're so tight with the global brands and also the local Indian brands as well.
Talking about smartphone market, we have seen trends keep changing with times. What is Corning doing in terms of innovation to cater to the new age smartphones?
So what we've seen over time is people want two things. They want good drop resistance and good scratch resistance. So that's the journey we've been on since we started 12 years ago, to provide the best glass for scratch and for drop. Now what happens is we improve our drop. The OEMs, the brands, could actually take that advancement in glass and just make a better phone for drop events. But sometimes what they do is they take the benefit we've given them and make the glass a little bit thinner so the phone can be thinner. They make 3D shapes, they put glass on the back. The reason they do this is because now they have a more robust glass that will protect their device, and they use it in the design space. But then they come back and say, and yet now the phone will be exposed to more damage events because there's glass in the front and the back and these 3D shapes, so we need an even better glass. So it's almost like a cycle. We give them a better glass, they use it in the design space, then they ask for even better glasses. So we're constantly innovating, leading the market with the best glasses available.
So John, we have seen that wearable device market is also picking up pace now. How is Corning innovating in terms of, especially for this particular market?
Well, in the wearable space, early on, people were just using plastic, which isn't the best material because it tends to scratch. Then they slowly transitioned to different types of glasses. We believe some of our glasses are best suited for wearables like Gorilla Glass 3 because it's so good for scratch. But still, there were improvements that could be made. So we came up with a composite material called DX Plus, which is a family of glasses which retains the damage strength of Gorilla, but is really phenomenal for both scratch resistance and low reflection. And now we're seeing in the wearable space, companies like Garmin and Samsung adopt DX and DX Plus products for their wearables. And this is getting very, very strong pull from those OEMs and brands, and also consumers are noticing. We go online and look at reviews of wearable devices, and comments about scratch on the devices have dropped dramatically since these wearable companies have started using products like DX and DX Plus.
Okay, we have seen that Corning Gorilla Glass 6 has really got a good response. I'm very inquisitive to know when is the next generation of Gorilla Glass is coming and how it's going to be special from the predecessor.
Well, what's amazing in the strength and cover glass market is Corning has led with every innovation. We essentially created the category of strength and cover glass. The very first one we didn't call Gorilla Glass 1 because we didn't know if there'd be a Gorilla Glass 2, but indeed there was. And then we went on to Gorilla Glass 3, which has been one of our flagship products, on to 4, 5, and as you mentioned, our current flagship product is Gorilla Glass 6. We've led in every generation of strength and cover glass, and the other people in the market simply just follow what we do and try and copy our products. And this has been repeated over and over. But when you're the leader, everybody wants to try and come after you. So we are constantly innovating and offering that next generation of glass. In fact, we have the next 2 versions already in the lab. And I don't want to get too precise on timing, but our cadence is about every 2 to 3, every 2 to 2.5 years, we announce a new glass to advance the performance. Not simply for the benefit of advancing science, which we like to do, but to get that value to the consumer so their devices are better able to withstand damage events, drop events like that. So you can expect a next generation of Gorilla Glass in the near future, and once again, we'll probably innovate primarily in the drop space because that's still the #1 feedback from consumers is they want phones that drop better, have higher damage resistance. So that's the journey we've been on, the journey we'll continue to be on.
On a lighter note, if Corning Gorilla Glass has to be kept against human heart, which has recently gone through a breakup, what would get more scores on Vickers hardness test?
The human heart really can withstand ups and downs in life, and I think Gorilla Glass is the same way. There's ups and downs, and Gorilla Glass will always be there, just like your heart will always be there as well.
Okay, thank you very much, John. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's time for a short break, but when we come back, we'll show you what goes in making the tough Corning Gorilla Glass. Welcome back to Times Network special on Corning Gorilla Glass. Right now we are in Corning, New York, where we are talking to the people behind this amazing technology. But before we go ahead, let's find out how the mighty Gorilla Glass is made.
So Corning Gorilla Glass is in essence a transparent glass material that's extremely durable, used on the majority of smartphones around the world. It really starts with two basic components. One is a flat piece of glass that's highly engineered, so it's very different than the window glass you see today. It's actually engineered specifically to be strengthened and toughened. There's also a toughening or strengthening process that occurs using a liquid salt bath. So it's the combination of having the right glass formula. We immerse that into a salt bath, and you actually create an ion exchange process. So literally ions come out of the glass, very, very small ions, and they're replaced with much larger potassium ions. It's that compression then that's created that by jamming these large ions into the glass, it creates this compressive stress. So imagine you're taking out golf balls out of the glass and putting in grapefruit or watermelon, and you create this compression. This compression is actually what keeps the glass very durable and retains its strength and is prevented from breaking. So if the glass is scratched or damaged or dinged during a drop or a fall during everyday use, it's this compression that keeps the glass all intact and doesn't break. And it's this invention that makes Gorilla Glass extremely tough compared to other glasses that we typically think about in our everyday life. Not only does it make it durable during drops and falls, it's also very scratch resistant. So many times you can think of plastic or other materials you can easily scratch. Gorilla Glass is highly scratch resistant. And this is very important for your displays where you're expecting to have very high resolution, colorful displays. You're going to want something that's not only good for your touch, but also prevents your scratch from either putting in your pocket or occasionally when you drop it. So the fact that Gorilla Glass has been used on over 7 billion devices around the world since we launched it, it's really established kind of the gold standard of what cover glass material should be for a smartphone today. Gorilla Glass 6 is about 50% better than Gorilla Glass 5 when it comes from a durability and drop perspective. And what that allows you to do is actually be able to survive a drop from essentially a selfie height, 1.6 meters, 80% of the time if you were to drop it onto a rough surface. The other thing that allows it to do is you can actually have repeated drops. Because what we found as we've interviewed consumers is most people drop their phone more than once in a year. In fact, people drop it as much as 7 times a year. So we've changed our test processes so we can begin to quantify that. Gorilla Glass 6 allows you to drop your phone up to 15 times onto a rough surface from waist height, from a meter. And that's up to 2x better than our previous generation of glass, Gorilla Glass 5. So our view there is it's basically created that gold standard of performance that everyone should expect from their phones.
Now, wasn't that fascinating? This piece of technology is an integral part of all electronic devices that we use in our day-to-day life. But now it's time to test the waters. That means we will show you how strong Gorilla Glass is.
Being a manufacturer of glass, Corning places a ton of emphasis on testing out the durability and strength of its Gorilla Glass. Not surprisingly, they take pride in saying that Gorilla Glass is superior than other glass alternatives. When it comes to surviving drops and impacts, Corning puts its glass through some stringent testing to ensure they live up to the standards. On our recent visit to Corning's headquarters, we were shown a few tests on Corning's flagship Gorilla Glass 6.
0.25 will go very low. It's like you dropping a golf ball somewhere below your pocket level, very low. And that's what happened. 0.25 joules of impact energy is enough to get this glass to break. Now we're going to repeat the same thing for Gorilla Glass 5. We will take it to 0.25 joules of impact energy, exactly the same thing. But you know, we are very tough here in Corning, right? So we go tougher. We call this super slapper. All right? So let's see how Gorilla Glass 6 performs in this test. So that's Gorilla Glass 6.
And so what I have here is the alternative aluminosilicate, and that's just a glass that can be ion exchange like Gorilla Glass. So let's see what happens with the aluminosilicate glass. And we're gonna drop this in 3, 2, 1. So yeah, that's broken. And now, we've been a little busy before you got here, and we have some of these devices that we have actually been doing some drops on. This one has already seen 14 drops. On the 180 grit, you can see where I'm doing the impact. I'm gonna test this using the same criteria I just did for the aluminosilicate. So let's go for that 15 drop and see what happens. Ready? 3, 2, 1. So that was the 15th drop on that. There you have it, Gorilla Glass 6.
Well, after seeing all this, one thing is for sure, that the future of electronic devices is pretty bright and definitely strong, thanks to Corning Gorilla Glass. That's all we have in this special episode. I hope you liked it and learned a lot about latest in glass technology. Until next time, thank you for watching.